Welcome to the Art of Finding Parts. We are so happy to have you join us. We can see that our attendees are just pouring in now. Before we get our webinar started, there's a few housekeeping items and some introductions that we want to do. So we're going to do that right now while people are coming into the webinar. My name is Jamie Irvin. I'm the host of the Heavy Duty Parts Report, and I'm very happy to be your moderator today. There's a few items we want to quickly go over. One, we know that you as parts professionals are very, very busy, and you may be that you registered, you weren't able to attend, or you're registered, you're here right now, but the phones start ringing, people start lining up at the counter, you've got to go. Don't worry, we're recording this, so we will make that recording available to you. For those of you who can stick around to the end, we got some exciting news about a $500 giveaway that you are going to, as a registered person on this webinar, are already in the running for. So we'll have some details about that. Again, if you aren't able to stay to the end, we'll include that in that same email. This is a 25-minute webinar. We know how busy you are as parts professionals, so we respect your time. And if you have questions as we go through this information, you can use the question and answer feature at the bottom. If you just move your mouse, the little bar will come up and you can click on Q&A and submit your questions. We'll do our best to get to a few of them at the end of the webinar. We probably won't have time to get to all of them, so we are going to make sure in that same email where you get information about the giveaway and the recording that you also have a summary of our answers to your questions. So now I'd like to introduce you to our panel. In the background, you're not necessarily going to see Max. Well, Max there is on the camera. He's our producer. He's the guy who's running everything behind the scenes, but the people that we really want to talk to are our panel. So first of all, we have David Siwak. He's the CEO and founder of FinditParts. David, welcome to our webinar.
Hey, Jamie, nice to see you. And thank you all for joining us. We're real excited.
We've got Dave Olson. He is the executive vice president at FinditParts as well. Dave, welcome. We're going to have to split you guys up by last name here. We got two Daves today.
Great to see you all. Thanks for joining us.
And we've got Myra Ramos, who is the support manager. She is someone who is intimately involved with customer success. Myra, welcome to our webinar.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right, so let's get our conversation and let's get this webinar started officially. So I want to talk to you a little bit about a big idea. The largest interconnected supply chain in America now available to you. Mr. Siwak, tell us a little bit of the story of how you came up with this big idea and why you felt it was needed.
Well, thank you, Jamie. So I'm a parts professional myself, even though people would say I'm not the best counter person. I was in the brick and mortar business, and what I saw in my business was with our customers that came to our front counter, very often they come to the counter for a part that we didn't have in inventory. And that process of locating a part was very complicated. So I saw the opportunity to build an e-commerce site, and we were looking to build the largest interconnected network of suppliers to provide the greatest amount of SKUs for parts professionals that are looking for them. And they have their normal customers or distributors they do business with, but that distributor doesn't always have the part, and the distributor themselves don't have all the parts. So I wanted to make an easy solution for people to look for a part and find it with ease and have the largest amount of suppliers geographically located to get the part to them quickly.
Mr. Olson, let's put a finer point on that. What does the supply chain look like right now?
Well, so we've made a lot of progress over the years. I mean, today we have 400 contracted suppliers with over 1,000 shipping points across the country that are bringing us 2,500 brands, right? So those are all big numbers, but what it really gets down to is, we have 4 million parts that we have a line of sight on, meaning we have an inventory feed. We know where they are, we know what they are, and we know how much they cost and how many there are. That's all well and good. What it really comes down to is the one part that you're looking for today. And we think by creating a lot of redundancy in our supply chain, we've been able to increase our batting average and say, yes, we can find you the part you need. At the end of the day, you're looking for part number ABC. Behind the scenes, these 400 suppliers, it means to us, we might have 50 or 60 suppliers with 80 or 90 locations across the country that have that one part you're looking for. So it just increases our batting average to be able to satisfy you, which in turn allows you to satisfy your customer.
Sometimes people will discover a company or a solution and they think to themselves, this is like, it's an overnight success. But David Siwak, this is something that has been a long time running. And when I think of where we were with supply chain issues just a couple of years ago, over the last couple of years with the pandemic, people might say, wow, like you hit this at exactly the right time. But the reality is you've been building this over quite some time. Could you tell us just a little bit about that so people understand how much work has gone into building out what FinditParts is today?
Sure. So our business, not dissimilar from large distributors or large dealers, you know, ones that became very large, it took them a long time to get there.
Mhm.
So we had a lot of obstacles to overcome. The digital experience of importing inventory from our suppliers, the idea of changing people's buying behavior. It has been a struggle building content, getting images. So although people say we're an overnight success, we've been working hard. And although people speak to the supply chain problem and why it is our success, I really think that there have been supply chain problems, but there are also local issues that no matter how good the supply chain is, not any one distributor or dealer has everything. So they might have 8 of the 10 parts, or they might not carry an entire category. So what we offer are a very wide net. So I think that really has made the process easier. And supply chain is going to go, it's going to be great and not so great. And I think we're going to continue to address that.
Yeah, like all overnight successes, it's been well over a decade in the making, and your career over 40 years.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about that, though. Let's talk about why finding parts is hard. So, I mean, when I was selling parts, I sold in a large market in Vancouver. Then I sold in a small market. We had like 8,500 people in just a small little store, but we were doing $3-4 million in sales a year. It's impossible to have all the inventory locally that your customers are going to need, because you just don't need to, you don't know what's coming next. So could you go into a little more detail then about what the average day of a parts professional looks like?
Sure. So again, I'm speaking from having been in the brick and mortar business. I was in that business for 20 years. And our experience at our business is that for us, 20% of the sales that we made over our counter or through our outside sales force were parts that we didn't carry in our inventory. But we were aggressive. And as a salesman, I was aggressive. I wanted to make every sale possible. So those 10 to 20% of the parts that I need to make sales for, I had to locate them. And so you have to hop on the phone, you have to call a bunch of people, and this is super time consuming. And what I remember is we're all trying to do our best job possible. So we're at the counter, a phone ring. So I'm at the counter, the phone rings, then a customer walks in, and then the phones are still ringing. So I found it really hard juggling between taking care of my customer in front of me and making the phone calls. And we built an elegant solution that can make it easy with a couple clicks. They can locate a part, decide how long it's going to take there, and buy that part.
See, when I was a parts person, there weren't cell phones, so all I had to worry about was the six calls that were on hold for me and the 8 people at my counter. I didn't, on top of that, have a cell phone in my pocket where people were texting me. So, Mr. Holson, what's the impact on the business? What's the impact on the parts company? What's the impact on their customers, the trucking industry, as it stands today with the current situation?
Well, there's been a lot of talk about the supply chain challenges, and they're real, and they are particularly real within the automotive or the heavy truck market. They have been hit particularly hard. A lot of people think it's getting better, but to David's point, I think the solution we provide is very relevant today. It's continues to be relevant as the supply chain gets better. But let me kind of give you an example of how this all comes together. Our industry today is really short on power takeoffs, PTOs. Many of you know what we're talking about. There's 3 manufacturers in the world. There's supply challenges at all 3 of them. So what that's caused us to do is go out and put together a cohort of suppliers that are PTO experts. Over the last year, we've added 6 or 7 PTO experts because we're addressing a very specific shortcoming in the market right now. So it's an example of how we can adapt and adjust our supply chain strategies to what the challenges of the market are today. Just a real quick point on the life of the counter person. If 80% of the time you have in stock what the customer wants, that's fantastic. We call that the happy path. There's a well orchestrated process to get that order, get the part to the customer. That goes very smoothly. We're talking about the other 20%, right? And when you think about if 20% of your revenue is requiring you to make multiple phone calls to multiple people with a potential to get a call back or not, this is where a counter person could be spending 30 or 40% of his day chasing parts. And if we can streamline that and make it simpler, he gets that time back and he gets to deploy that to other customers and other opportunities.
Yeah, not to mention the people on the counter, but all the outside salespeople. I know when I was an outside salesperson, I'm calling my counter, 20, 30, 40 times a day, depending on how busy the day was, because I'm coordinating with them from the field. So you add that on top of it, and there's a lot. Now, let's talk about some of the numbers. You've alluded to them, Dave Olson, you alluded to them a little earlier, but I want to talk a little bit about the solution that FinditParts has built, and let's kind of review the numbers. So they're up on the screen right now. At first glance, the numbers, they sound quite impressive to me, but at the same time, I want to understand a little bit more of what this translates into reality for a parts professional who's on the webinar right now. So can you translate this? What does this mean for the individual parts person who's looking for a part that they don't have in stock?
I'll just start that one, David, then you can kind of jump in. But basically, the idea behind this is to be a supplier to FinditParts, you need to provide us inventory feeds, which means we know what you have, where you have, and how many you have. So if you've got 20 locations, we're getting an inventory feed 4 or 5 times a day from you. We have perfect information in terms of what you have available. When you add up those inventory feeds in terms of all the suppliers we have, it comes up to $4.5 billion of available inventory. That's impressive, but it's only impressive to you if we have the one part you're looking for.
Right. Can I just stop you? Can I stop you there for a minute? I just want to drill in on one thing. When you're a distributor, you often think of suppliers as just manufacturers. That's not necessarily the case. You're talking about suppliers, any supplier who is in the marketplace that can provide that part. And that's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, but I think it gets really interesting when you think about the life of a distributor and now having access to all the OEM proprietary parts. That's interesting. When you think about a dealer getting access to these product specialists like the PTO folks we talked about, or trailer specialists, these product specialists that we've added on, it makes their capabilities available to all of our customers, which is really the magic behind what we're building here.
Yeah, and it's beautiful because when you really think about FinditParts and what you've done here is you've created visibility around where the parts are in North America, which means that we can now access them more quickly. Mr. Siwak, could you add a little bit to our conversation on here? When we're talking about like brands and aftermarket and OEM parts, what are we actually talking about?
Well, I mean, I think the important thing that I would like to communicate is that we're looking to be a friend of the market. So we're not like a big box retailer coming into your backyard and competing and taking your customers. We're really looking to be the friend of the distributor, the OEM dealer, obviously the end users, but and when I say a friend, it's in 2 ways. One, we want to help you with your customers when you don't have the parts you're looking for. The other things we're doing is we're listing your inventory and making it available for sale. So when Dave spoke of PTO problems, there might be a distributor that's a great distributor of PTOs and hydraulics, and they might be in Minnesota. And now we have another customer that's in Florida looking for that. And for the counter person or parts professional looking for that PTO, they might never find the dealer that has that particular PTO. And because we have our tentacles into so many distributors and dealers and manufacturers, there's a high probability that we will have that part. So we have a dealer that was building trucks or had to outfit them, and they needed, I think, 5 PTOs. They had trucks that they couldn't deliver to their customer because they couldn't find that PTO because the manufacturer had a lead time of, I don't know, 20 weeks.
Yeah.
And we had a distributor who had been sitting on those things for years, and we were able to make the sale. So we didn't take the sale from anyone. We facilitated a sale from a distributor to a dealer that put it on the vehicles to satisfy the customer. And that's where I'm saying we're the friend to the marketplace.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. Now, Myra, we haven't heard from you yet. Let's talk to you for a moment about some of the different ways that people use the platform, because people on the webinar right now, they might be still saying, okay, I understand what you're saying, but how does this actually cut down on the amount of phone calls I have to make? How does this actually make me more efficient and help me with that? So it's not just about the availability, it's also about helping the parts professional. So Myra, could you tell us a story of perhaps a time where one of your customers had good success?
Yeah, okay. So Jamie, one of our customers, they were looking for an international part. So they came onto our website, they used the search bar up on top and they searched the part number, and this is what they found. Now, this particular customer didn't have a spec that it had to be an OEM replacement part,
Mhm.
and they were open to using an aftermarket part.
Okay.
And so what they did is they used the site filters here on the site to narrow down the results, find a part that not only was in stock, but the part met the spec of the customer and met the price point of the customer. And that led them to decide to actually not buy the Navistar part, but to go ahead and get the Dorman part instead. So when they did that, they clicked through the Dorman part. As they can see on the listing, the part is in stock, is
Mhm.
ready to go, and they're able to quote the customer right there on the phone while the screen is up. This saves so much time and phone calls. And in addition to that, to really validate that this was indeed the part that the customer is needing, they're able to also use the year, make, model lookup there on the website. Now, what we're really excited about is the further development of that and being able to help parts pros tell their customers with confidence that not only is this part in stock, the price is there shown on the website, it's ready to ship, but also they can validate it works for the customer. And should they have questions, we have an outstanding customer support and tech agents available to take their call and answer any questions. So the end result was a customer got the part the next day, they were able to get their vehicle back on the road. And that's really what the business is about.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, when you think about both David Seawack's example and yours, Myra, in both cases, this resulted in equipment getting into the field and doing what the trucking industry does, which is take care of society. So I wanted to talk about that for a minute. You know, you as parts professionals, your job is challenging. Some of us, most of us actually involved here on the call have been in your shoes. We understand what it's like to be on the counter, what it's like to have to try to find parts, and you know that demand is there. And you support the trucking industry. The trucking industry is the backbone of society. Without it, we just wouldn't have the life that we have today. So that means that your work is really important. And we're honored to be part of providing you a solution to help you do your job better. And when at the end of the day, the only part that matters is the part that you need. And that part is a part you can find on FinditParts. So, Max, you've been sitting in the background, you've been pulling the levers and making this webinar possible. Did any questions come in as we were talking about the FinditParts solution?
Yeah, and those who have questions can also raise your hands. I haven't seen any in the chat yet. Just going through right now. You can raise your hand and come up to speak, or you can use the chat here. And let's see here.
I know
I'll
ahead of time, we had a couple people who said they weren't able to come and they had a couple questions. So do you have any of those loaded and ready to go for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I hear a lot of some people had questions around, purchasing online can be, a challenge sometimes, particularly when it comes to, hey, warranty or how our core is handled. Like this is really important for certain parts. And
Right.
so I think, I think that'd be great to answer that
Okay,
question
so
here.
the question is, if I order this using the FinditParts platform, that's great. I got the part, it's coming. Now I have to send the core back, or I have a warranty. What should I do? How does that work? So who's the best person to answer that question?
That would be me.
All right, Myra, you're up.
There is a
You're in the
link.
hot seat.
There is a link on our website. If you go to FinditParts.com, you can scroll to the bottom of the page. There is a link for core returns,
Okay.
and also a link to contact us. So you feel free to click there. It'll send us an email and we'll respond to you with how to proceed with returns or
Right.
cores.
So the core, you can fill it out. If there's a return, you need to talk to someone, you can always do that. At any point you get stuck, you can easily make a phone call and talk to a real live person.
Correct, yes.
Fantastic. Max, any other questions that we had ahead of time? Oh, it looks like one did come in on the chat. Oh, no, okay, that's
No, that
type
was me.
questions here.
Yeah, just letting everyone know that this is the place
Okay,
to ask
sounds
those
good.
questions. Yeah, I guess the last one this is probably a Myra question again. Returns is also, with e-commerce and purchasing online is something that people might want to have further information on. So either anyone on the panel can probably answer that question.
Yeah, well, we have a hassle-free return policy, and more information is also on our website, FinditParts.com. There's a link for returns.
Mhm.
We do accept returns within 90 days, and more information can be found on our website.
Yeah,
Great.
one thing. Go ahead, Max.
Yeah, no, just Dan had a question here. What about warranty policy? It's a great question.
Oh, a warranty is by the vendor. So we would collect your information regarding the issue with the particular part you have, and we would work with our supplier to get you a replacement as soon as possible.
Okay,
If I were
fantastic.
to add to that, I think an important note is that we're truck parts people that went into the online space, not online people that went in the truck parts space. So historically, my brick and mortar experience is you're our customer. So we have to stand behind you. So we always err on the side of the customer. And if the customer takes advantage of us, maybe we don't want them as a customer. But we really want to do everything possible to take care of our customer, because it's like kick the cat. If we don't do our job and then your customer's mad at, and then their customer's mad, we want to make sure that we make it a real happy experience. So we want to be the Zappos of heavy duty parts. We want to be super easy, nice to talk to, and be your friend, take care of you.
Well, one day soon, people are going to say, well, we need to be the FinditParts of FinditParts.
I love that.
So, one thing that I wanted to ask myself was, we saw pricing there. We saw the opportunity to buy OEM, to buy aftermarket options. That's important because your customers sometimes have specifications, especially if they're a fleet. They maybe spec one part over another, but the options are there, and the visibility on price is really important, because when you are trying to find that needed part, you need to know the price, you need to know the availability, so you can quote your customer, you can get it coming, that customer then can plan the repair. This is all part of an interconnected supply chain, and it's part of several partnerships, to really when you think about it, to get that part from manufactured into the hands of the end user requires a lot of partnerships, and FinditParts is one of those partners that is really providing something of value that's going to save a lot of time. So when I was going through and preparing for that, and I saw that those are the thoughts that I had. Myra, do you have customers who have reflected those same concerns and same feelings?
Yes.
Nice and easy. All right, so we've only got a couple minutes. We promised we wouldn't take more than 25 minutes of your time. We're down to 2 minutes to go. So let's talk about this giveaway. If you've registered for this webinar, you are already in the running for this $500 gift card. But if you want to increase your chances, register an account on FinditParts and start using your account. Every time you do so, it increases your odds of winning. The details of exactly the raffle, as well as the recording and a summary of any questions that were asked and answered, is going to be in this nice email we're going to send out. And the winner is going to be selected April 16th. We're looking forward to that. We hope that you found this to be valuable. We hope that the FinditParts solution is going to save you time, money, and help you do the important work that you do. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to our producer. Thank you to FinditParts for making today possible. But most importantly, thank you to all of you parts professionals, because you are unsung heroes in our books. And without you, the trucking industry would not be what it is today. So a big thank you. We appreciate you attending today's webinar.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you all.
for your time.
Thanks so much for watching our recorded webinar. We wanted to make outside purchases the easiest part of your job and help you deliver the best experience to your customers. Learn how a corporate account can streamline your part finding needs. Set up a meeting using the link in the description below or emails at partspro@finditparts.com.